Hello and welcome to another Saturday edition of Indiepocalypse Radio, the only show that always happens on Saturday anyway, so why is it a Saturday edition? All editions are Saturday editions of the show. But anyway, I'm here. I'm fresh off um, a plate of nachos, ready to go. Oh, my name is a little askewed. I gotta fix something. A little... there we go. I didn't like the layout of the thing. Speaking of the layout, we've got an exciting layout you're going to see here today. We've got the rarely seen 4 guest layout coming soon because we've got 2 pairs of guests today. Speaking of guests, I'm the host. I'm Andrew. I run Indiepocalypse. It's a thing that has games in it. And this is a show where I talk to the people who make the games that are in the thing. To start off, we've got 2 guests here as part of a team, 2/3, I believe, that had worked on. A game you may know from issue 33 of Indiepocalypse, diphenhydramine. No, I forgot an N in there, but it's close enough, folks. Close enough. It's Quake and Vespa Days. Hello, how are you doing today?
Hello, doing pretty good on our part. Pretty much still waking up, got a little bit of coffee in us, but good for that. By the way, that's Vespa Days here. So
Yes.
If you hear this voice, that's us.
Perfect.
And I'm Quake.
And that's the voice you hear if you hear Quake. And the voice you hear that started off the show is Andrew. That's the long-time listeners, perhaps. First-time listeners. If you're here, you hear the voice that is this, and it just keeps rambling about the show. Anyway, speaking of, I don't want to turn on airplane mode. Speaking of the show, important question: the people out there are dying to know the old vanguard are desperate to know the burning question, which is, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
I don't remember. I remember that I was the one who discovered it. I think it was because someone on Itch.io found my game and put it, and I got a notification that they put it in a collection, and then there was another game that looked interesting and it said that it had been put in Indiepocalypse, and I was like, oh cool. And then, I looked and submitted, and here we are.
That's a first time of that I've heard a kind of very. Also, I put people on lists a lot too. So sometimes I wonder if people have. How do you know you get put on a list?
I don't know. I haven't gotten a notification for that exact thing since. I think that for a very short time they were letting you get notifications for that, and then people probably complained because you would probably get put on a lot of people's personal lists.
Yes.
And you would get spammed, so they might have turned that off.
Right, or maybe that's just something I turned off a while ago because I looked at that stat fairly recently of because I was digging around in the stats for fun to see. Well, not for fun. I was digging around the stats because I had to pay people. But then while I was in there, I decided to also have fun and see hey, what are the most wish listed sort of things? Are collections? No, because they're not the equivalent of wish lists because they're just they're a weird mixture between owned things and also wish lists.
Yeah, it's like a mixture of. I know one person uses them as a wish list. Another person I saw uses them to explicitly have a place to show people who are coming from one thing similar stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really cool feature on Itch.io, actually.
Right,
It's got a lot of. It's very versatile.
I have 6 of them. I use them for all different things.
Ooh.
I have one public facing one, and then the rest I use for my behind the scenes curation, where I have to I put them in a pile of people, and then I put those people in another pile, and I just keep making more piles.
Have a pile for this, pile for that.
Yeah, right. I've got a dude pile. I've got a big business pile. Basically, I had a giant list of games, and I also have a giant list of exclusionary factors for including people in my handpicked Indiepocalypse selection. So I made then But I didn't want to forget those games, so I had to make all these weird subpiles. But that's beside the point. To get to the point, tell me a little bit about your game, and then also say it properly, because I believe I missed a letter in there.
The game is diphenhydramine, which
Okay.
is the colloquial chemical drug name for Benadryl. The game is like a direct twine. I don't know if you'd call it a game. I'd call it a game because
I
I have very loose definitions of
I
games.
have maybe even a looser definition of games. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the looser the better, personally.
Yeah, it's like, what is a book, you know?
It's like be inclusive rather than exclusive on these
Right.
kinds of media, you know?
Yeah.
Spread your net as far as you can go.
Right. If you have to interact with it, it's a game.
For real.
Yeah.
But it is a game about it's like a first, second person kind of game of the player character going through with a suicide via drugs that doesn't really matter because a meteor is about to hit the Earth that night anyway. So it's kind of like a last moment hurrah of weird psyche hallucinations, superego bullshit. And it's based on real events. I mean, obviously we're still alive, so the meteor part wasn't real, but
Right.
uh
But based upon.
yeah, I used to abuse pharmaceuticals a little bit when I was a bit younger, so
Yeah.
like
The
so
No, go.
yeah, so like so I had a little bit of understanding of how like some of the drug interactions actually work that were written, like Benadryl and hallucinogens and Valium and all that other shit. Like, if you think you're like a lot of like, maybe I shouldn't be talking about drug paraphernalia use.
Yeah. Also, you don't need to give people an open door to figure it out. You know. It's not, listen, I think people can kind of do their own thing, but a lot of stuff is bad for your body, and perhaps
Yeah, no, don't do anything depicted in here, please, for the love of God.
it's generally
Yeah, for sure.
it's generally like kind of like know what you're good at, or that's a weird way of phrasing it. But like, are you like a 2 beer and then I'm done person? You know, it's that whole mentality.
Yeah, I'm a 2 beer and done kind of person these days. I don't feel like putting my body through that shit anymore.
No, well, there's a reason if you drink so much of it, your body throws it up because it's poison.
Yeah,
It's bad for you. But the beauty of humans is that we really like to consciously do things that are bad for us. We kind of can override our survival instincts in those ways.
and it leads to a lot of really cool things when you do.
Yes, right.
Like discovering spicy food is good, for example.
Yeah, right. I love spicy food, even though it's just nothing. Even though it's like basically just pain.
It is yeah, I was not raised with spicy food. I love spicy food. I can't handle spicy food.
Oh, I love it. I was when I did Indiecade, I went to a food truck, and this guy's like, "Hey, it's these street tacos are really spicy." I'm like, "I know, I get it." You know, I am a New Englander, a white New Englander, but I know what spicy food is. Like, buddy, is this real?
I've seen it from a distance behind a plate glass window.
No, I've seen it up close in my mouth. I'm prepared.
See, I like it where you get it like enough spice where you kind of get that point where reality starts getting a little bit weird.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
I like it's like I like the spice that comes with comes with like a side helping of regret,
Yeah.
but not like chip like challenge spice, like chip challenge kind of spice. That seems like it's all a weird kind of like I feel I'm the same way with like alcohol. That's primarily why I drink beer and not like hard alcohol. It's because I like the taste.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about like the end goal.
Yeah, like not just doing it just to suffer for it, because there's
Right.
good flavors underneath the heat in a lot of cases.
Yeah, yeah. I've got like a bunch of things next to me, but a little. I have like a my go-to standard is I look for things that have pictures of happy monks on them because I like to think if the monk's happy, then I'm happy.
That's a good standard.
It's like, I mean, those are more expensive, which also helps you from drinking too much because you're like, huh, these things are like $12 for a 4 pack. Maybe I can do this once every other month or so.
Um, but back on the game,
Yes, back on the.
no, I like tangents. I like tangents. I love getting
This
on
show
tangents whenever I'm on a podcast.
is 90% tangents, but tell me, yes, but it's also here because you are saying what you want to say.
Um, so yeah, but like the game was based on real life experiences. I don't know why I wrote it. I kind of just did.
Yeah.
I kind of was just like, I feel like expressing some negative feelings in writing today. And then I kind of wrote it in about an 8 hour stretch. And then I showed my beautiful spouse, Vespa Days here, who has done all of the CSS and styling for um, all of my Twine projects,
And there
just
is,
because
and there's very good CSS and styling in this.
it
Thank
is.
you.
Um, as well as contacting my partner, The Sins, who sadly could not be on today, to do the cover art, both cover arts, the background art for the splash screen for the game itself, and then the one that's actually up on the itch.io. They did both of those, and so by our powers combined, we made something fucked up that made a whole bunch of people feel real bad.
Yeah.
Yay!
And that's I really like that we are entering this era of kind of fucked up art in games that makes people feel bad.
You know, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. There is number one rule is if Andrew's talking, you want to talk, just talk, and I'll shut up.
We are the worst people with like coming into conversations. I'm sorry about clipping into that anyway. I just wanted to. I was trying to remember. Is this because you were talking about where this came from, hon? Was it because I know All Fall Down came from like some of the medical stuff we had to go through? Wasn't there a little bit of that in this? Or
I think there was a little bit of like yeah, some kind of like existential despair from my circumstances. To explain that a bit, I was working as a head of department and union steward at a grocery store in 2019, 2020, and obviously that meant I got COVID.
Oh, I'll be honest. I did the same thing through the majority of. I only got it once, and I don't even think it was from there.
Oh hell yeah, let's go. I'm glad you didn't have any lasting repercussions because unfortunately I did.
Yeah.
It gave me long COVID after a few months of after recovering. I struggled to walk. I got really weak, chronic fatigue. Basically, they did some MRIs and stuff,
Yeah.
and at first they were like, "Oh, you either have MS or ALS. It's in your family history, and you probably have like 5 to 10 years to live." So that's where another game I made, All Fall Down, came from. It was just kind of like the theme of dying on my own terms stretched across both games.
Right.
Um, and so this one probably had some of that angst in it. I'm happy to note that it was just long COVID. I've been through physical therapy. I can walk again, and I'm not dying. Hooray!
That's a true triple hat trick there of good news.
yeah.
But yes, and yeah, that is a lot to take in, but also I think the nice thing I say with a question mark and the parenthetical about art is it's kind of like to go back to us, the humans, and thinking too much about things, we can like realize so much about ourselves, and then we can also, through this very abstract way, find a way to get it out of our brain somehow.
Yeah, and like really artfully describe how you're feeling a part of your life and put it in a way that others can interpret and internalize.
Yeah.
It's like projecting empathy.
Right. That's the thing I enjoy most about art is I think it's like it's a very shorthand way to not fully understand a person, but kind of like understand where someone's coming from, understand an experience. It's, it's easier than someone explaining it to you because it conveys it in a more abstract way. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but art lets you see things in ways that you weren't able to see them before. I talk a lot about this, that Linda Barrett comic.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Art is the great equalizer for emotions and concepts and everything. Everybody no matter how grimy, dirty, down in the trenches or elevated it is, somebody's gonna get something out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why there's no kind of perfect version, There's no proper, I think, way to do art, and I think like grime and mess I love it. I love grime and mess.
I fucking love wallowing in the grime. That's my element.
Hell yeah.
There's so much. There's what I would infinitely prefer like something that's just kind of like completely imperfect if it means I kind of feel more of a person in it.
Yeah, art's about the feeling, not like the technical skill or anything like that necessarily.
Right.
Like the technical skill can help you get the feeling out, but if it's just like only that and there's no like feeling, no soul, no intent behind it. That's why AI art fucking sucks ass.
Right. It's when you see AI like I remember when I'm forgetting. See, now I forget his name a lot because I wasn't like directly so familiar with him. But that artist who died recently, and then someone trained AI on his art, and he's like, "Look at this AI art I made of this deceased artist." And
that's the grimiest shit in the world, and not in the good way.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, it looked different. It looked similar from a distance. But then once you zoom in, you like all the faces are wrong. Like they're like non-existent. When like if you look at that artist's work originally, like the faces, like you see a bunch of people in all those faces,
Mm-hmm.
You see
instead of like a algorithm's interpretation of what it thinks a face is supposed to look like.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like you see the broad strokes of an image, but then when you forget that when a human being makes art, they have to make every part of it.
Yeah.
Not in the same.
Exactly.
And so like
or get other humans to collaborate on different parts to a whole.
Right, but every little brush stroke is something that came from a human body at some point. And like every little line of a face, every dot of an eye is placed there with some intentionality and like a purpose. And is coming from a person's full experience. But anyway, that's to get overly sentimental about art. I think it's good.
You know what? Art, I think it's good.
That's my
slaps my desk. You know what? I think art's good.
That's my bold stance that I take often on the show. That I like art, but I think it's meaningful. It's why I do this,
I never would have guessed that you think art is good.
I've been tricking people all these years. It's all a long con business plan. I'm going to lose money for 3 years, and eventually I will amass enough other people's work that obviously took no work of my own to collect. and then I will collect pennies on the dollar every few weeks.
Truly a genius. Just a mastermind plan.
Right. The the scheme of a lifetime. I can't believe I got away with it. They'll be calling me the Ocean's One once this is all over. But well, no, they won't, because my name is an ocean. That's why. Anyway, speaking of video games, how do you feel about video games?
I personally really like video games.
Huh.
I don't usually play a lot of them, but I do love them.
Yeah, I've only started recently playing video games again, which feels like a weird thing to say.
Yeah, like I think at this point, fall down a lot of indie visual novel holes on our part.
Yeah, what's the one that you were playing last night?
Not, don't know if that would count as indie, just given the scope of it, but I Was a Teenage Exocolonist.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, that is not. That's
Yeah,
Finji. That's probably got a couple mil behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the kind of thing where I think I was at a booth next to that game, and the people running it did not work on the game. That kind of game, you know, or not work directly on it. You know, the kind of people that have PR teams that go to events for them.
Yeah.
But
I love being my own PR team. I'm terrible at it.
oh yeah, I am too. I don't think I'm getting better.
I'm like, hey, look at all this fun furry art I'm posting. Hey, look at me. I'm talking about good and optimistic world. Hey, all this stuff. Hey, my Patreon series. It's nice and kind. Anyway, I just dropped the game. It's gonna make you want to barf from how bad you feel.
Yeah, it's a good reason to play a game, and also saying I dropped some furry art is also just, I think you can get money just by saying that. I think that kind of is in terms of people who actually show up, you know, and then back up their talk with money.
Yeah, the furry community is definitely one of the most pockets open in a very positive way.
Yeah.
It's not just the like commissioning people for bespoke art thing, but they really do come through on a lot of projects. Like I recently published a book called Slime Time that I was not really expecting to make a lot of money from. It was just kind of like a really big passion project. You know, pay someone for the cover, get it published, get it in a few stores, get it on an online store, see what happens. And then it ended up selling like 300 copies of just people who were naturally in my audience for a lot of other things and not that, just came out and they were like, this is really good. I'm really happy I bought this. And most of them were furries, and
Yeah.
all of them were queer, because I don't think a cis person would survive reading that book, but
Well, or they would find a different part of themselves on the other end of it.
yeah, one of a few.
Well, I mean, the reigning champion of top selling issues from 2022, prior to this current one, was the 31, which has, you know, as they say, as the author frames it, as an off-putting body horror furry sex game.
Yeah, I followed them from that one. It was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, and that was the top seller until we got the big Sylvie bump with the last issue.
Hell yeah.
So, like, you know, people show up. It's good to find, especially if you're in indie games long enough. You're like, wow, people love to run their mouth, but not run their wallets.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have wallets to run,
Yes,
but
no.
yeah, like a lot of people do talk a lot of shit and do not show up in any way.
Yeah, that's all. It's why I try to. I mean, a lot of the games are free in Indiepocalypse. It's why I link directly to them. I don't say you have to hide your games. You can't sell them while it's in the issue, because like if people just simply use it as a curation tool and don't actually buy the zine itself, that's fine.
Yeah, I actually did get a couple of like individual sales on diphenhydramine after after the Indiepocalypse came out, which was weird, but I was like, thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal. The goal is I'm trying to get the biggest spotlight I can, so I then can take a big reflective surface and shine it on everybody else. I don't want people looking at me.
That's kind of what I do that's like a little bit of what I do with my Twitter following. I have like 6,000 plus followers, and I'm
Yeah.
just desperately trying to get all those eyes on things that I think are worth it, and people who need the attention, need eyes on their work, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's
For however long Twitter lasts.
Right. It's just the vibes. See, the problem. Okay, or I'm not gonna. No need to discuss Twitter, but it's good for being. Twitter is a good megaphone, and nothing else is a megaphone.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I don't want to join 30 Discord servers, and nor do I want to find my way to joining the correct Mastodon and making sure I follow the right rules. Also, it just has bad vibes. I don't like Mastodon. It's just got bad vibes coming from Mastodon.
Yeah, I was in one of the more popular Mastodon servers during the first wave, and it was not good.
I say this. It just feels like everyone's trying too hard on Mastodon. I don't. It's just very exhausting. You know what it is? People on Mastodon really, really want you to know that they're not using Twitter. That's the kind of energy I get. But speaking of kind of energy, we're going to head into a break energy, if you believe it. The time has come so soon.
Dun dun dun.
Quake, Vespidays, hope you stick around for the other portions of the show, the later end even, the group chat. But until then, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us so much.
Thank you for being as part of this thing that I keep running for some reason. I don't know how to stop.
Your work is very appreciated,
Yeah,
seriously.
Thank you. I've said it before, but because I commission games and covers 3 months in advance, it's kind of like a buffer to me ever quitting anyway, because I always feel obligated to at least do those 3. And then I always bounce back within that month. And then I commission another one, and the cycle never ends. Speaking of cycles never ending, I've got a GIF on loop here that I'm going to go to, and we'll be back in 2 minutes and 51 seconds with our next guests. Goodbye. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Virgo Snakes by Swan Song. I forget. Oh God, what was that label? It's 2.5 something. Was that record label? I think. I was listening to a bunch of it on Bandcamp, and there was one I was like, why do these people sound like REM? Nobody sounds like REM. That's a really weird. It was because they were from the 90s and when people actually did have that sound. But speaking of that I did not leave myself a good speaking of. But anyway, there were some more people here is what I'm trying to say.
Speaking of products of the 90s.
Speaking of products of the 90s, perfect. I didn't know that information, but now I do. Speaking of products of the 90s, we have at least one product of the 90s here.
I am also a product of the 90s.
A full products contemporaries with Michael Stipe and the crew. From issue 33 of issue 33 of Indiepocalypse, I should say, rather, with Escape the Bullpen. It's Aaron Elsabrut and Freddie Cleveland. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Thanks
This
for
is
having
Freddie.
us. This is Aaron.
Perfect. Yes, important of when there are 2 people to clarify, because how is a listener supposed to know who is who? And I certainly will never remember to do that. But so you've had time to prepare, so you know what's coming to the Indiepocalypse question and all Indiepocalypse questions. How'd you hear about this thing?
I heard about it through Aaron because I'm a hermit who doesn't learn about things unless one of my cooler friends tells me.
That's the life I strive for sometimes.
She's fucking lying, okay? She is the cool friend. Um, but yeah, I learned about Indiepocalypse because a bunch of games that I liked were on it. Recently, Reba by Envy Machine.
Reaper is very good.
Yes, I was like, if these people like games that I like, maybe they'll like games that I make.
Yes. And the beauty is, I like to think that like people will be like, yeah, it doesn't hurt to try, and it really does not hurt to try. And I'm glad that people try. You know, it's part of why there is zero. I'm closing a bunch of windows right now that I'd opened for the previous segment. I think that's a good thing for people to be like, oh, I see myself in other people's art in this thing, so that I have a chance with it, you know. And I think that's part of what I'm striving for. So it's good to hear that is like successful, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
I remember there was a podcast I was listening to by a white guy, but he was part of his guest booking was like he told the story that was like, you know, when I was a kid, I saw comedians like me all the time on, you know, comedy specials and everything, and it's why I thought I could do it. But he's like, well, what if I included other people on my show? Then, you know, it's about opening doors where you can, and I try to do what I can with my 10 per, you know, month, and hopefully it helps. I don't know, but speaking of your game, tell me about Escape the Bullpen.
Go ahead, Freddie, if you'd like.
So I guess it started. I'm not really a video game creator. I'm not really in that space, and this is like my kind of the first thing I've worked on, and it was, you know, a lot of fun. But it was basically I was just working on a bunch of comics and stuff like that weren't coming together, and then Aaron came out of the blue and said, "Hey, do you want to make a video game with me?" And I said, "Yes, I do," because I like video games, and I kind of never tried my hand at it, and so we threw ideas back and forth, and there was a short story that Aaron had written that we basically decided we wanted to try and adapt. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I wrote this short story maybe a year and a half ago now, maybe almost 2 years. It's funny because, of course, like the story has become immensely more topical over time.
Yeah.
Because for those who haven't played the game, the story is about a person seeking an abortion. And basically, like, the story just kind of lived in my head for a long time. Like many of my short stories, it was like based on a dream I had. And finally, I was like, what the hell? Let's try this. And I'm not a game maker or a programmer by any stretch of the imagination, though I did have to learn a depressing amount of Python to make this game. So I was just like, let's do it. Let's try it. And like by way of background, Freddie and I are high school friends. So we just kind of were like in the habit of throwing together ideas, and we were like, fuck it. Let's do this. We're going to go.
Yeah.
Also, I hope it's okay to swear.
No, it's swear. This is a swear, not free, swear welcoming zone, perhaps. Swear safe. This is a safe space for swears, as they say.
Does it veer into swears encouraged or not?
Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do. It's usually I match the vibe of the guests because I can swear a lot as a person, and sometimes if the guests don't, then I don't, and if the guests do, then I do. It's very much feel
We'll
out the
feel
room.
it out. Yeah.
Right. It's like, do I call stuff shit or do I call it stuff? It depends on what the mood we're feeling is.
Weird. I feel like I'm kind of like a in a phase of my life where I'm like a hippo disaster, so I probably swear way too much.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. I feel like we're entering a generation where people are just like fine with swears. You know, they're just like a thing that we do, and we have to like, because there's a lot of very harmless cursing. You know, there's the. I think we're like approaching the distinction between harmless cursing and like pointed aggressive swears.
I can't remember where I read this, but it was like I was reading about the guy who did Deadwood, the old timesy Westy HBO show, and he apparently, because there's like a lot of swearing in that show, he apparently wanted to have period appropriate profanity, but period appropriate profanity for the Old West is like gosh darn it and heck and stuff like that. So he didn't want people to think it was just a goofy thing, so he had
Right.
to use modern swears.
Yeah,
I'm
but
learning so much about Western culture right now.
yeah, but if I was in the Old West and someone came up to my saloon and gosh darned me, I would be scandalized. If not, had him thrown out through the doors.
And yeah, you start reaching for your shotgun under the bar there.
Yeah, I'll give you a gosh darn. You almost took the Lord's name in vain. You got very close. Too close for my liking, partner. But but anyway, yeah, I think that is a growing theme that I'm excited about with more game development, which is I'm not a game developer, but I made a game because it's like becoming a little easier. Like the resources are more readily available. Something like RenPy's been around forever, so you don't need a high-end PC to run it.
Yeah, that is something that I was kind of delighted by because it always did feel like a barrier of entry. All the programming and figuring out how like what do you even use to write code, and then it's like just kind of having all these free resources available that you can just download, and there's tutorials that are like here's what you download and install in this order. It just made it like very easy to kind of slip in there and start doing things.
Right. So you don't have to like. Games are such a weird medium because there's this kind of like, if you're painting, you usually don't have to go and mix your own dye paint. You don't have to create your own paint from the raw materials. You can just buy it at a store. Whereas programming, you can't. I mean, you can. I guess you can buy program at the store. A lot of places actually have. Engines have that kind of storefront where you can just buy stuff or download someone else's code and work from there. But
So what is the programming equivalent of mixing your own dyes and stuff like that?
yeah,
Just mining pixels in the pixel mines.
right.
Mining variables in the Python mine.
Yes. Oh, I don't. I think I tried to learn RenPy at one time, and I think I came to it from a different language that I also wasn't good at. And when you're like not good at 3 different languages and trying to learn them, and they have similar phrases, you're just like, I don't know, I'm lost.
Yeah, early on in my infinite ignorance, we were participating in this pretty long game jam, the trans representation game jam. And it was like 2 months long. And at the beginning, I, with utmost confidence, said to Freddie, okay, I'm going to make the platforming parts in Pygame, and you're going to make the storyline parts in RenPy, and we'll magically smush it together at the end, and everything will be fine. And then, like, 5 weeks passed, and then it was later than when I had originally planned for the Pygame part to go into the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, this will be fine. I can definitely do this in 2 days. And then, basically, I discovered that RenPy stopped supporting Pygame, which is basically just like a Python library, in like 2009. And instead, I had to basically rewrite everything that I had written, which had taken me like the best part of 2 months, in like 3 days with the assistance of this miraculous person called the Gemmy system. And they just like walked me through it over Discord. Otherwise, there would be no game. But it was a whole adventure to actually, go out there and learn how to program as I was doing that.
Yeah, it's a whole it's an experience that is like an interesting new like skill to build on top of like a thing to like I think sometimes, and maybe I think sometimes programmers probably get devalued for that reason, because it's like a thing that people don't want to do that they have to do as part of making a game. But it can be like this whole enriching experience in and of itself to like learn how to, even if you're doing something very simple, to be able to learn how to do it and figure out like the programming language.
Like there's value in just the pursuit of the thing rather
Right.
than the object of the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, even if you didn't want to necessarily be a programmer, and you maybe never want to be a programmer, but you learn what you learn what you need to do along the way to get to work in the medium you want to work in.
Word. And I think it's really interesting too to like approach game making from that perspective, like Freddie said before, like from the perspective of like I'm an artist or a writer or both, and that's primarily like approaching it as storytelling. Um, it's kind of strange because like I'm not like a huge games player. I mostly play like Xbox 360 platforming games like Assassin's Creed, and then like queer visual novels and nothing in between. And so this whole idea was like, I want to tell a story, and these are the two video game formats that I'm familiar with. Like, how can I make them go together?
Yeah, I think that's I say a lot in the shows that people who make video games play too many damn video games, and it's important to have a perspective that is other than just like trying to recreate like the kind of like public perception of the video game in the moment, and like no, this is what I think video games are, or what I know video games to be, and sort of like reinterpret. Because I will be honest, I was not expecting a platforming section when I launched up your game. Very rarely. I will say my long tenured experience playing Renpai visual novels, I do not usually expect a platforming section within them. Though clearly it can be done.
It felt like a magic trick the first time that Aaron uploaded like a build with the two of them linked together to GitHub, and it was just like playing it. It was literally it was like seeing like stage magic. It's like, how the fuck did you do this?
Right, right, and that's a thing, because the thing is, there's actually, and I think this is the beauty of art channel, there's actually no rules. You can do kind of whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like for me too, originally I was kind of like, oh, maybe we should try and hide the RenPy user interface. Like maybe we can just make it like its own thing. But after a while, I was like, wait, hold up. People are very familiar with what RenPy games look like. Like we can actually subvert their expectation like that, which I thought would be interesting. And I feel like, I don't know, like even though the platforming section is janky, like the combination of that and the unexpectedness of it, like
Yeah.
it kind of was around like a theme of disability that was in the story that we kind of tried to like subtly insert.
Yeah, that's like it. There's right. It's not meant to be like a leisurely jaunt from one location to another within the game, you know. So like any kind of sort of like imperfections is fine, you know. I think works in the game's favor than anything else.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that. I feel like part of me is like, oh, that definitely was on purpose, and part of me is like, damn, I could have made this so much better. Literally, like the night we released the game, someone messaged me and was like, hey, like something irrevocably broke in the first 10 seconds of my platforming run. And I was like, ah. And I had to release like a game repairing patch. But then again, apparently a bunch of like AAA video games that people spend lots of money on also have to do that these days.
Right.
So that
Yes.
doesn't make me feel as bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just means you're a real game dev. That day one patch.
Yeah, exactly. You are built into the system. Now all you need to do is withhold content through DLC, and Have you thought of about adding a roguelike element, a roguelike mode to escape the bullpen?
Yeah, let's see, how would that work? Just do a different layout every time, and it's something like it's the shifting nature of reality. I don't know.
Right, some flimsy excuse so that you can put people on a gambling style treadmill, and they go, "I love to run in place. It's like I'm going all around the world."
Should we do battle pass or loot boxes?
Why not both?
I feel like we semi-seriously discussed making like a dating sim spin-off, which I think is just like really hilarious premise for a story about sexual violence.
Yeah.
We were kind of seriously shitposting about it, and I feel like we could definitely make like loot boxes within the dating sim where the person like curries the other person's favor by getting cool fucking like herbs in the post-apocalyptic city to bribe your friends with.
It's dark that you went straight to like monetizing content, because I was just gonna make it like cosmetics and stuff like that.
Oh no, you gotta go the whole way.
Yeah, if you have loot boxes, what's the point of having a loot box if not paying real money for it? It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't pop the same. And I mean, honestly, there is something in that, because I think visual novel or dating sims especially get shorthanded sometimes as like a very gimmicky sort of thing that you add to your quote unquote real video game. And so it's like there's something in that, the kind of like there's commentary in there somewhere in those.
I think there's like a, I don't know if it's a disconnect or a connection, but it's like people were talking about earlier with the video games being kind of these empathy generating machines.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that really works well for something like a dating sim, but then it's also, there's this weird idea of like control, or it's like there's like this authorial voice running through each dating sim. So I think it might be interesting to do something like each character has their dialogue written by like a different writer or something like that. I don't know.
Yes, I think and I wouldn't be surprised if the dating sim, there's a lot of people will explain sort of like the dating sim space. I think there becomes like a saturation of something, and people are like, "Oh, I'm sick of this thing. I'm sick of, a KFC dating sim. Sick of tongue-in-cheek Dead by Daylight dating sim. Oof, this is all wish fulfillment."
I'm pretty sure dating sims jumped the shark with Hatoful Boyfriend, if y'all know what that is.
No, see, the thing is, okay. Having not fully played, but having spoken to people who did, I think Hatoful Boyfriend is like a it's just like, are you familiar with Amelie?
Yes.
So
hipster.
I think there was a time when there were a lot of very sensitive indie boys writing stories about these mysterious women entering their lives and turning them upside down and making them experience life and everything. And I think you'd be like, "Oh, it's Amelie's fault," but Amelie is also a movie about Amelie as a character. It's about her, and I think Hatoful Boyfriend is probably like a more sincere kind of take on. Well, I guess they're also pigeons, but
for those who are not aware, this is a dating sim where you date pigeons as presumably a human.
Yes, and the impression that I get from having, and I really ought to play it, is that it's actually like far more sincere and serious than like the 80 million. Look at this dating sim that you are dating a thing that you don't think you should like. I don't think more that I don't think it was supposed to be intentionally meant to be a gimmick in the way that all of its successors are.
It like was and wasn't. I played it also like the first time I ever got drunk with friends, so like keep this in mind.
Right.
But like it's kind of like Schrodinger's meme. Like it's simultaneously a joke and sincere.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of where we were going with our whole dating sim idea. Not that this is going to happen, or maybe it is now saying it out loud, but like, I think part of it for us too is like Escape the Bullpen is a story about like trans people of color's trauma. And like something about that made at least I think both of us be like, yo, we gotta make like something fun and happy and lighthearted with that still like is like speaking of that experience, like
Yeah.
not something generic, because it's like these stories like it is important, especially, you know, for me, it was super important to write a story about pregnancy with a transmasculine character because that's just not something that people see out there. But at the same time, it's like tiring to always hear sad stories about trans people of color.
Right.
And so we were like, why not do something stupid as well?
Yes, yeah. There's the whole idea of marginalized groups need to be trauma factories to so it's like, this is prestige and good art because it experiences trauma. No, keep your joy off to the side. I get joy from other things, from the regular from the majority I'm comfortable with, but I want to feel bad about something that's not me, so I need trauma.
Yeah, I think part of the joke was that we had like spent so much time on this game, and then it's like the idea was that we were gonna just do this other thing that would be way longer and more complex.
Yeah.
And it's like the original thing that is about that trauma. It doesn't get sidelined, but it becomes this like that's just a prologue for this much longer piece that's about joy and community and stuff like that.
Right.
I feel like we're committed to this now.
Well, I will say how I start 90% of my projects is I say them out loud to other people. And then once you say it enough times, you feel obligated to do it.
Yeah, because then you're embarrassed if you don't
Right.
you don't ever show
Right.
up with it.
Right. If someone's like, oh, weren't you going to do that thing? You're like, you see.
Here we go.
Right. Exactly. And then you do it. And then in making just as a bit of warning, just make sure you don't call it wholesome.
Why not? What does that do?
Lest you not be wholesome in the correct ways,
Okay.
or I don't know.
I'm pretty sure we're not wholesome. I'm pretty sure we're not the type of person who
Yeah,
gets
we're
to
both
wholesome.
little gremlin perverts. It's not
Yes.
gonna be wholesome.
I am cherishing a new generation of gremlin perverts that is emerging in art. Truly, it is the millennials we were shocked into trauma, and then we were like, what if life wasn't so bad? But Gen Z, they were born in the trauma, they were born in the chaos, and
We're just going to hell. Like everything's gonna be on fire soon, so at least people can find out about my weird neuroses from my video games.
exactly. And it's like when the whole world, you're like, the world, it's possible for the world to not be on fire. Huh? Weird. I'll believe when I see it. But speaking of generational gaps, we're taking a radio show gap here in a moment because our time here, our segment here, is over. If you believe it, it all comes and goes so quickly.
Duca.
But Aaron, Freddie, thank you for being here, and I will see you both in like 2 minutes and 46 seconds, I'd say.
For the precision.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having us on here.
Thank you so much for being here, for being in it, for being around. Bye. Hello, welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was the Diaz Brothers by the Mountain Goats. My ever continuing playing of those that full catalog I have that I am going to what's the word I'm looking for? Bring in I'm trying to materialize a bonus issue in the future just through good vibes, and eventually I think I could pull it off. It's themed 2 to 3 from now, who knows. But we're back with everyone here hello, everyone here. They're having they are there's pop-offs in the quiet chats. That is private information that you cannot hear on the radio show. But everyone is here in the live channel. Hello, everyone.
We just learned that we all live pretty close to each other, except from Freddie and Andrew.
Who lives very far away.
Small dang world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird how like everyone is like, was it last episode? I lose track of who were on these things, but I think even last episode I inadvertently scheduled two people who were just friends with each other. Did not know.
That's wild.
Yes, yeah.
That is crazy.
Just people who I think there was like a married couple that was scheduled 2 or 3 episodes apart because I did not know. I don't know everyone's interpersonal lives, you know? And they had both been in separate issues. And then I did not schedule them at the same time just purely by coincidence, but like a week or 2 apart. But that's how it all works out. It's a small place, you know? There's a lot of us, but there's less space than you think.
I feel like in this case, it also speaks to how like most queers in North America who are able at some point think to themselves, maybe I should move to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should get out of wherever I am to one of the to a haven. It all depends. I guess if you're rich, you come to the Cape. You come to Cape Cod, where we've got Provincetown.
It's like retro gay shit, like Fire Island.
Yes, it is. It is Provincetown, P-town. If you're local, I don't know if people outside of Massachusetts call it that, or if they even call it that anymore. But yes, it is very like. I mean, in the same way that all of New England is old school anything. It is like, you know, they all settled on the tip of the arm, as it were, of Cape Cod. And it's a I've been there once in the middle of winter. It's still far away because it is on the tip of Cape Cod.
See, I was born and grew up in Illinois, which is like in the middle of the Midwest. So people think it's like a really bad place for queer people and stuff. But because of Chicago and a lot of urban metropoli that are just scattered around the state, it is like actually genuinely very good and has a lot of progressive laws. Like it's one of the only states for a few hundred miles that explicitly just enshrined the right to unionize, and has like trans healthcare like enshrined in the constitution of the state and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. Well,
so like,
wow, that's awesome.
As far as it goes, that's probably the best place you can be besides one of the coasts. That's good.
Weird.
That
how
said,
often no, continue.
That said, I did end up in the Pacific Northwest, so what do I know?
Right. It's weird how these things all seem to happen once you concentrate a lot of people together. It's almost as if it is a majority held opinion or something. I don't. What am I? What do I know though? You know, I'm just a coastal elite.
Are you implying that certain functions of our government aren't necessarily democratic?
I'm just saying it's really.
Oh, never.
I think these progressive policies being run in majority areas is purely a coincidence, not at all related to the vast number of people being there, and the idea that being around a large number of people kind of can increase just your worldview and realize that people who are not like you are also, in fact, just other regular people. But, you know, who knows?
I live like the reverse of this life because for the last several years, I've lived in a lot of places that are pretty rural. Even now, even though I live in the Pacific Northwest, like I live in a really small town and it's pretty conservative.
Yeah.
And I always have like especially like my brown friends or even like family members come visit me and be like, why do you live here? Like, what's the appeal? What's the rationale? And I'm like, okay, first of all, I like trees.
Yeah.
That's big. But the other thing is I'm like, if I as like a like non-passing brown trans person don't live in a place like this, no one here will ever see a person like that in real life. And they'll only learn about it from fucking Alex Jones or some
Yeah.
shit. Which is you know,
Not
less
the best
fun,
place.
less fun than it sounds. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then they're like, oh. I think it takes like 2 seconds to realize that people are just regular people. You know, there's a lot of like, if you didn't have people just like shoveling bullshit down your throat every single day, of the horrors of people who are not the same as you, you would be like, oh, all this stuff is kind of made up. We're kind of just like.
I think if you come into encountering people in good faith, it's
Yeah.
just like it takes a greeting and then it's done, and it's like, okay, they're a person. It's, yeah,
Mhm.
free of ideology or whatever.
Right. They're not just like this weird demon that runs around waving colorful flags and stomping on your kids' birthday cakes. They're just like going to the grocery store and getting.
Turns out the gays eat takeout and rake leaves like everybody else.
Right. Aaron, I cannot believe you rake leaves, but with clearly some kind of strange, colorful rake, of course.
It's a rainbow rake.
It's yeah, exactly.
A rake bow, if you will.
Yes.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Right. It's not that queer people do yard work. Huh? Weird.
My partner actually works in stage, and so we do have a universe wheelbarrow. So maybe I am bullying the cis.
Yeah. What? Yeah, it's just.
Why are you shoving your wheelbarrow in other people's faces?
Yeah, I at least as long as my kids don't have to see it, you know. Yeah, it's all very terrible. It's just the simple word for it.
Yeah.
And
Simple, accurate.
yes, and I think it's I don't know. Hopefully, it is like slow progress of people just like, well, they're not going anywhere, and then eventually we just get older and we get used to it. You know, how many years ago were tattoos really strange? You know, now like everyone's grandmother has them. Like people, as it turns out, realize that the visual things that they assumed prejudices for were not real, and then they just kind of got used to it. And hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, honestly. But anyway.
Let someone choose a lighter topic.
Yes, right, yes. Video games. Mario.
Video games.
Mario.
Video games.
Mario's a little
Mario
guy.
is colorful,
Mario's a little guy, ain't he?
Mario is a little guy.
Yeah.
and he
He's got
gets bigger
short
when
king
he eats the
energy.
mushrooms.
Yeah, so yeah, when he eats the mushroom, he loses his short king energy, though.
Yeah, he has to be all serious then.
Yeah, he's kind of got like, and don't trust his vibe. It's kind of gets
I
real
think
bad.
he still has proportional short king energy.
like
I'll allow it.
Relates the twink bear dichotomy in this one person.
oh man.
He truly is the most metropolitan man in the world.
I mean, he does like to put on a lot of little fun outfits.
It's true.
Thinking of the antithesis of that, where like there's apparently a type of speed run people do that's like nipple percent, where you find the fastest way to get the shirtless outfit in Mario Galaxy or whatever.
Oh yeah,
Whatever the new one was.
that's true. Mario is a cat boy as well. He's covering the wide spectrum. Mario's the everyman, really. he's a non-existent entity until they give him a fun personality in our upcoming film.
In our upcoming film, voiced by Chris Pratt.
That man is a mystery to me.
I know that this has been litigated endlessly,
Yeah.
but that trailer was shocking.
He is so when he made his star turn, I think it was Jurassic Park. I remember I saw a trailer because that was during the heyday of Movie Pass, where they would let you see 8 million movies for $1 a month, and I was like, thank you, until they went out of business. But I remember seeing that Jurassic Park trailer a lot. I was like, this guy, he's a bad actor, isn't he? Why is he starring in a movie? And I feel like it hasn't changed.
Yeah, no, he's not fantastic. He's just kind of like a blank slate kind of person, which I guess is popular for some people.
Yeah, I remember.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
He's as much of a blank slate as like a white Christian man can be.
He is
Yeah.
the everyman derogatory.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for me, that Jurassic Park movie was just like, oh, I guess there's a white dude on the cover of this Omar Sy movie. Cool.
Yeah. It is. You gotta put a white man on the cover of some movie, or else how do they make money? I remember.
They did My Man's Dirty twice. Not only this, but also they remade his like breakout movie with fucking Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart.
Wait, what was his breakout?
It's called The Untouchables. It's like
Yeah.
a French movie. It's basically like it's kind of a weird premise in the first place because it kind of is like one of those like heartwarming disability stories,
Yes.
but the French version is much better. I have to say this. And it is also based on a true story, but the premise of it basically is that like the main character played by Omar Sy, is released from prison and then he becomes like a caretaker to this super rich guy in a wheelchair, and then a heartwarming friendship ensues. But in the English version, they replaced him with Kevin Hart, so it just all is like memes.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the weird thing I think you come across with remakes, where it's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's a recycling of a premise, but not a recycling of like a purpose, maybe, or something like that. I don't know if the purpose is the right word I'm looking for.
That's a neat way of putting it, though.
Sorry, what was that?
I said that was a neat way of putting it, though.
Oh, the other part. I heard that part.
I said it's like an ethos. It's like they
Yeah.
take the premise but not the ethos.
Yeah, exactly. Like you lose what was the point of the thing you made, the thing that was originally made. Yeah, ethos is a better way of phrasing it. Because it is very easy to turn it into than because there is one of those every one or two of those every single year about a heartwarming film about people overcoming some kind of, often a biopic, of overcoming some kind of hardship, and people coming together, sometimes across class lines, across who knows I didn't think we could cross these societal lines, but that is the one true Oscar bait style of film, and in a lot of cases.
It turns out art is the vibe more than the content. Who would have known?
Right. Yeah. Yes, you're right. It's like you miss the moment to moment. It's not just that, oh, this guy got out of prison, he pushed a guy around in a wheelchair. It's kind of like, well, no. There's more to minute stuff. I remember seeing, was it Of Monsters and Men? What's the name of that James Whale biopic? I say to hopefully everyone who will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Gonna be real. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's what I thought.
Gods and Monsters.
Of Gods and yes, somebody did know what I was talking about. Yes, of Gods and Monsters. Yes, I remember
I
watching that.
googled it. I cheated. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Gods and Monsters. Anyway, that was very much it was exactly. Oh, Clive Barker executive produced it. Weird. But I guess that makes actually a lot of sense. But no, sorry. Oh, I got distracted down Wikipedia rabbit holes and going like, oh, Clive Barker executive produced a movie about James Whale. That makes a lot of sense. James Whale being like, famous gay horror-ish director. Clive Barker being that, but technically more of a writer and a lot later in life. Anyway, closing all those. Let's get out of that Wikipedia hole that I'm going down and realizing like, I wonder how much of that happened because Clive Barker's like, hey, what if we made a movie about James Whale? He's a cool guy. That Bride of Frankenstein movie's kind of weird.
Wild how your brain kind of like works like that now. Like it's like, oh, how did I get to this incredibly deep rabbit hole? Let me like backtrack one step at a time.
That's how my brain works like 90% of the time. And a lot of times the way I phrased it to people is I'm kind of like I'm on a train making a lot of stops, but 90% of those stops are in my head. And then when I get to I get to the end part and people are like, how did you get here? And I was like, well, you see, and then I have to walk them through all the stops I got there to get to where I got. And it's like, well, if you were in my brain, you would have fully understood what I was talking about. Why wouldn't you?
Do you ever, in following the chain of reasoning, do you ever like find that there's like a broken link?
Oh, there most certainly is.
All the time. Like, I think the way that I've heard somebody put it when talking to like our experience with that is, oh, you speak in parentheticals.
Oh. I quite literally speak in parentheticals a lot. Especially,
I always think of myself as like speaking in introduction and conclusion and never any of the kind of meat of the matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, it works. It's kind of like how you can read a word as long as all the letters are there, if the first and last ones are there,
Yeah.
And you can still kind of get the idea.
My whole personality is based on cognitive tricks.
Yeah. Did James Whale direct that Old Dark? Yes, he did direct the Old Dark House. What a movie. That's anyway. I'm gonna put some. I wonder if I can get that potato clip. Potato. There's a part in that movie where an actor. What is his name? He's this old actor. He was also the doctor in Bride of Frankenstein. He asked people for potatoes, and I love that scene. Is frequently asked people if they would like potatoes, or rather offers them potatoes. Anyway. Movies. I think they're good. I think old art is fun. Thank you. I should love a potato. But that was just one of those. You know how friend groups get a thing that you just do forever. You know, I think you call them personal. Sure. It's like memes, but for just your friends, which is really the best thing. Mm-hmm. And I encourage that, really. I encourage.
What was the friend meme in this case?
It was offering. It was the idea of, would you like a potato?
Gotcha. Yeah.
In his very particular kind of cadence of offering, or yes, I should love a potato. Anyway, it's a cool. You know what I was thinking. Anyway, I'll let someone else talk. Someone else. Anyone have any important thing to say? Any questions for the other guests that they might have been thinking? Well,
can I pitch a game that I just thought of?
Yes,
please.
Yeah.
So I've been playing a lot of driving simulators, and I've been playing a lot of Death Stranding recently.
Yes.
And what if you had a Death Stranding game where you walked by pressing the gas and brake kind of as if you're walking, and you lean by moving the steering wheel?
So
I
I kind of hate it.
Co-op evolved. Like,
Yeah. Co-op, but you need $200 of equipment to play it.
I
Wait, so like it's a driving game, but you're a person?
Yeah, basically.
I think it is.
Translate into my dad like understanding of video games.
I think it's. Are you always running, or can you walk? Like is it just tank controls basically, or is it an actual like you can only go forwards or backwards?
I think it would be tank controls. So like you would control the speed by the speed at which you're pressing the pedals.
Yeah.
And then it's like if you want to run, you have to like actually like pump your feet back and forth. And then I guess you wouldn't be able to go backwards. Maybe you could shift into reverse,
Right.
like a gear shift, and then start walking backwards. I don't know.
So
Would it be fun?
So what you're suggesting is the problem people have with tank controls is they should have used a steering wheel for them.
Right.
For Resident Evil, I should have a steering wheel, and then it would all make way more. I mean, I did play once at a friend's house. I did play the N64 Super Smash Brothers with the N64 steering wheel controller. So
How did that go?
not well. It was like a weird remote with like a trigger for like the pedal and like a steering like a crank and some buttons on it.
This is a Wii peripheral, you said?
No, this was a Nintendo 64
Oh, okay.
peripherals, but it just like it had enough of like it just took the inputs anyway because it was like you plugged it into it. But it was in
That sounds like something that it's like there should be a category of Smash where everyone has to use like the same bizarre weird controller.
right Dance Pad Smash. Where were we?
Is that a thing already?
No, maybe
I
not.
wish.
I just said it.
It should be. You get credit for that.
I don't know.
Do you want the credit?
Maybe. Does not seem, at least a very, very cursory Google search does not seem like. I mean, obviously there are people who have like done speed runs or whatever, or played with it, but not. Oh wait, I forgot to say competitive Smash.
Right.
Ah.
okay, here, how about this her name? Super Smosh Pit Brothers.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, there's right because we just like let's just put all the pads together. Let's make a real mess of it. I don't know.
And then you record it and it's a piece of found art.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
I do like the idea of like retroactively forcing games to become more physical in like a way that doesn't make sense. Like even Freddie, when you were describing like having to pump the gas for the running game, I'm like, that would be so painful after
It would
less
just
than
destroy
10
your knees.
minutes.
right because like pedal and brake are just like they're just inputs really. So there's no reason they can't be left and right legs.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I like there is a lot of stuff like VR is a good way of making the games physical. But I feel like people just want to make VR like, oh, it's like you're fully immersed in this world rather than having fun ways of moving your body. But I have no idea how to design for like a pleasurable movement through space, you know?
Yeah. I'm trying.
Yeah, that's making us think. Speaking of the quakes here, what was that article that came out the other day about like the mind being able to map to bodies that are very non-human in structure? Because that's another cool thing that feels like it could come out of VR.
Yeah, it was the Stanford article talking about like finger quotes the human homunculus about how they did some experiments on like adult human body plasticity, like in the mental plasticity with differing body parts, and found that people can adapt to basically literally anything. It was I could fish it up and send it to you guys. But like the thing is like with VR, like people adapt to that even though it's like a disorienting thing quite often, and then they can do things like aim, move weird limbs, all that kind of. Oh yeah, okay. Vez just posted in the chat. Um, so like I think it would be really cool if more VR games tried to like explore a space of you having different physical capabilities to see how your mind can bridge that gap.
Yeah, Bone Lab does that a little bit.
I don't know what Bone Lab is because I don't have a VR headset.
So it's a game by this studio called Stress Level Zero that I think are more like VR kind of almost VR R&D people than game designers really. But in their latest game, it's like you have this thing on your arm that you basically go through a bunch of characters, and you have one that's like light and fast, and then you have one that's like really tall and gangly, and then one that's like huge and strong. And it's like they all have different proportions and stuff like that. And they did some interesting stuff behind the scenes to like kind of make to do the exact body remapping you're talking about. I'm not sure it works entirely, but I think that might be down to like the limitations of just having, weird, movement, and like just the controllers aren't enough for it yet. I don't know.
Hmm. That's really cool. I'm gonna have to check
Yeah.
that out. Thank you.
No, I remember I saw at some point someone was like thinking about just like said, hey, think about next time you're driving, think about the fact that you are driving, and like when you're able to sort of like disconnect yourself and then realize that like how much like the car has becomes like when you learn how to do it, how much the car becomes like an extension of your body, and like
Yeah.
rather than like this vehicle that you're driving, and how like you can kind of
And
break.
it happens like linguistically too,
Yeah,
like, oh, he almost hit me, not that car almost hit my car and stuff like that.
right. And that's why people are like also so like hey probably why people get more angry on the road, because like this is very dangerous, you need to be careful about it. uh but it was weird when I thought of that, and I was like, oh yes, when I'm imagining me piloting a vehicle, it's a lot stranger. And I think that I realized like that's how when people are like really get into the gamer zone, and it's like, oh, I did really good when I wasn't thinking about it. And it's because like probably that same thing was like your brain is just extending to the like the controller to the input, and it's like it's bridging, it's eliminating whatever gap you had between playing the game and thinking about it.
Yeah. Just anecdotally, I'm much better at shooters when I'm a little bit stoned or drunk than when I'm sober.
Heard and felt.
And I wonder how
Uh,
much, yeah, I wonder how much of that is just like stopping yourself from thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
the, circles it all the way back to human mind. What a thing. What a thing it is.
What a concept.
What a concept. Crazy that we all have these things. And
I think it was all a mistake.
knocking around knocking around up there. But speaking of knocking around up there, I'm gonna knock some things down here, which is the episode. We're cresting an hour and a half. I try to keep these around an hour. Sometimes I run longer if we're having a good time. Which usually I have a good time, and usually I run long. But I try to I'm trying to give myself better self control when it comes to actually paying attention to how long I've been recording for, and turning it down. So unless anyone has any pressing last minute concerns they need to get out.
Nah, I'm good.
All right.
It's been a lovely time meeting all of you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a very
same.
chill hangout.
So I'm going to instead just go around. If you're live, I'm going around the circle here, and that is Aaron. What have you got to promote? Where can people find your stuff?
So I'm at To Reach Poise on itch and most social media. If you are on Mastodon, I'm Sayed Ishta at Eldritch Cafe.
Perfect. Freddie.
I'm basically only on Instagram now at severely LTD, and I just post art and sometimes
Yes.
pictures of my cat.
Importantly, not severely LTD on Twitter, as I learned last month.
No, on Twitter I'm at severely limited, but
Yes.
I don't really tweet much.
No, I saw this because I had him as severely LTD on both, and I was like, who is this libertarian weirdo on my feed? And there's
Whoops.
and
Whoopsie.
severely LTD is that
Is their thing like they're a severely limited government?
maybe they have you know that they've got an avatar of, I think, a stone statue.
Their bio, Elon brought me back.
Yes.
Oh God.
Oof.
Yeah.
The worst vibes possible.
Yes.
I do not like being associated with this person.
I was like, oh, did I get tricked? I was like, no, I think I just got the wrong thing. Because I like to try to check out people's stuff before I include them. I go, make sure this person isn't a real piece of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And generally, people are not. Speaking of people who are not, Quake, what have you got to promote?
I am Quake Rock. That's with ROC, not ROCK, on Twitter, on co-host, on Itch.io. Please only follow me if you are 18 plus, if you are an adult and okay with seeing adult content, because I get real fucking weird with it. That's about it. I really like writing, so I do furry story commissions a lot, and I have a Patreon that you can find through my Twitter.
Perfect. Yes. You can find all this stuff anywhere. Vesper Days.
All right, so we don't have too terribly much out there yet. There's Data Stains on Itch, and we're Vespidazed on, well, soon to be Tumblr, Twitter, that's pretty neglected. And if you look at co-host, we've done some rampant heinous shit posting, like making a post look like it came from Game FAQs. So if you want to laugh, look us up there.
Yeah, flood co-host. Get some nice weird vibes coming into co-host. I think co-host can be cool. I think also. Anyway, but it needs more people. I think it is like once you. It's this weird thing where like Insularity is good and bad and confusing, and I like to have you need to because it doesn't have Mastodon style instances. It's kind of everyone in a big pile. More people in the pile is good. Speaking of a big pile, Indiepocalypse is kind of like a pile of games if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I recommend you buy that pile. If you buy, for instance, issue 33 of Indiepocalypse, some of these people here will get some money eventually, maybe. Ooh. That is good. That is very good.
Yay.
No, not Instagram. Game FAQs art. That is good. Game FAQs art. I'm not a look at what we used to have, look at what we've lost, but we've lost ASCII art. That's what we've lost. As it all gets turned into video game guides written like they're friggin' recipes, where you have to be like, in Mario Brothers, the world of Super Mario is an exciting world that I remember when I was 8 and I first experienced. I'm like, no, just tell me there's a mushroom guy at the front. I want him to not kill me. Tell me how to get past the mushroom guy at the beginning of Mario Brothers.
Well, you just need to join their Discord, you see.
No, I want to
Did
look.
you ever print the Game FAQs guides out and so you could read them while you were playing it?
Yes.
I want to. There's a little mushroom guy. He runs into me. Then Mario dies, and I want to figure out how to get past him. I don't want to hear about your life. I'll get it one of these days, but he just runs so fast. I can't help it. But speaking of running fast, you should run fast to Indiepocalypse.com and buy Indiepocalypse. You can, if you want to be included in future issues, you can go to Indiepocalypse.com/submit and submit a game. There's a lot of space. There's 10 games per issue, because some people have said that's too many games, and I'm like, there's not enough other people doing it. That if I don't give these people $20 to $60, who will? Hopefully other people, because that's not a lot of money, and I think people need money, unfortunately. But
We'll get rid of it one of these days.
One of these days, or we'll make it so that we all have it or something. Who knows? So some compromise between it.
One of the two, I think both would work.
As long as I don't have to trade a guy chairs for the things that I want, or whatever. As long as you don't have to convince me to try and barter, I will be glad. Because bartering seems exhausting.
Bro, I don't have shit to offer. Like, I just
Right.
want to receive things.
Right.
The only thing I have to offer is labor, and then we're right back where we started.
Precisely, right. I will barter 8 hours of my time in exchange for a good that you make. Oh, you don't make a good? Somebody else produces it? Huh. Wait a minute. I see what you're trying here. But also, Indiepocalypse.com/Patreon is a way if you want to just subscribe and not have to even think about paying me. If you want to just let it tick away like so many other services in your life, just to chip away your little bank account once every little month. And you go, oh, I subscribe to this thing? And then you'd be like, oh, whatever. I can't be bothered to unsubscribe. That's the dream of subscriptions. If you pay $5, you can get commission games. It's like a service that you're used to. But that's it, I think. I got nothing else. Tank's empty. Out of stuff. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to, you know what if I was thinking, because before this I was watching something. Yeah, you know what? Cannot be bothered. I was like, should I raid a stream I was watching and go back to it? But I can't be bothered to figure that out. I will say, hey, if you're here, I'm going after this. I'm just gonna watch some people play games on Extra Life. I think it's a cool thing.
Oh yeah,
it's cool. You know what? Maybe I will do that. I will instead vamp for 5 seconds and find out how I send people to twitch.tv/chichism. I'll figure it out eventually. That's where I'm going. I love that weird little lizard guy and funding children's hospitals. But anyway, I have to close the show first. I forget that I have like a whole outro thing. But anyway, Vesper Days, Quake, Freddy, Aaron, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being in the zine and making games in general, you know?
It was my pleasure in every possible way. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a blast.
Thanks for having us.
That's it. Goodbye. Wait.